Alright, we're going to go over a little bit of grinder and cutoff wheel safety here. Watched a couple people get hurt here lately, the cutoff wheels. And you got to be careful with these damn things. The main thing you got to watch when you're doing anything with your grinder is find your RPM on it. That's the first thing I look at when I'm buying a new grinder. I like these medium-sized grinders because I can run these 7-inch cutoff wheels. You got to watch your RPM though. This is the Avanti from Home Depot. They work really good. The Avanti Pro metal cutoff wheels, 7-inchers. They work really good, but you got to watch your RPM on stuff. We got 8,450 RPM on this one. 8,450. This grinder turns 9,000 RPM, so we're maxed. We're just borderline pushing our luck running that on this grinder. You get into these bigger grinding stones that have the nut actually in the stone, you really got to watch those because a lot of those, the RPM on them is only like 3,800 RPM. A kid here, this is probably 10, 12 years back, but he threw one of them big ones with a nut on it that only spins, max RPM 3,800, threw it on a grinder like this. His mom found him dead in the garage when she got home from work. The stone just grenaded. There was like a third of the stone was literally stuck in the guy's forehead. Mom found him dead on the floor. Can't be careful enough, too careful when it comes to that. Check your RPMs. Check your RPM on what you're putting on. These poly fans and stuff, they're usually pretty good on the RPM. What do we got? 13,300 RPM. So that's pretty good. And I think this one here was, it'll focus on it. This is a regular grinding stone blue fire. It's 12,200 basically. The last grinder I had before this actually was a 12,000 RPM grinder. And that's why when it grenaded, I got one that spun a little bit less RPM, because at 12,000 RPM, you can't use this. Your borderline can't use your stones. It just really limits you on what you're doing. And the first thing you do if you're a welder is you take that fucking safety, cage off the damn grinder so you can use the frickin' thing, which is, you got to do what you got to do. There's so much you can't do when that guard's on there. So, but once you take that guard off, you got to be even smarter. You got to watch all your RPMs and stuff. The main thing that gets people in trouble with the cutoff wheels is when they get over-centered and it pulls away from them. If you were cutting through this steel right here, you'd want to keep the center of your grinder just a little above the center of your steel, somewhere right around them like so. You don't want to get down underneath it because then it's going to start chopping and kicking back at you. But what gets people in trouble is when they get way over like this here, and they're riding up top like this, and then when they get to the end of it, they cut on through it, it'll hook and just pull that down. As soon as you over center and hook, holy shit, man, you can't get out of the way fast enough. So always make sure there's nobody else in the room with you. That's what I always do. Make sure there's nobody else in the room. None of the kids around. Make sure you got your leathers on. Make sure you got your safety glasses on. And just pay attention to what you're doing. Like I said, when you're cutting this, keep the center of the wheel just a little above the level of the steel that you're working on, just a little above it. If you get below it, it's going to kick back at you this way. If you get above it, though, as soon as you get to the end, it'll just suck right on around and rip it out of your hand. And I had a buddy here a couple summers ago. He just laid his whole hand open on the top, right between the knuckles, just split him open, ended up with a bunch of stitches. So, guys using these cutoff wheels, I really like these. They're only like $2.80 a piece. They hold up really good. They last forever. If you're careful and know what you're doing, they last quite a while. If you're burning them up real fast, you're not doing something right. But always check your RPM. Always make sure nobody else is around you when you're doing it. And I watched the YouTube clip here probably it's been a while, 5-6 years ago. Guy was flapping his lip and he was doing some cutoff wheel on something. He was cutting some exhaust bolts or something on an engine, I think it was. And all you seen was him flapping his lip, and he fired up the cutoff wheel, and about 10 seconds into it, all you seen was his buddy hit the floor. Bam! He over-centered it, it locked. Big chunk of it came off, hit his buddy right in the gut and put him on the floor. So just, you can't be too careful with this stuff. Pay attention to your RPM. Don't let this over center and get away from you. Keep it just a little over center, push into it just a little bit, and just kind of let it feed on in on its own. So everybody be safe.